So this section is to establish that it is a chemical drug chip. Secondly, it is to establish that it is ionized gating membrane potentials or SOMA membrane tracers. Thirdly, is to establish that it's a neurotransmitter chain kill switch chain reactors for Neurogrid-POP100+ and neurotransmitter kill switch chain reactors. I'll be using the following: the IBM ionized channels POP synapse gating variables conductance SOMA membrane tracers that legally confirms a neurochemical drug COVAX transmitter chip kill switch. Neurogrid mixed analog digital multi-chip system. For the neurotransmitter kill switch chain reactors, first I will use this Washington Emeritus Prof Lab on the electromagnetic fields act via activation of voltage gates calcium channels to produce adverse effects. And also the Russian American Italian lab team on the 5G technology and induction of coronavirus or COVID in skin cells. And also the Korean lab on the graphene oxide radiofrequency characteristics. And also the remotely controlled electro-responsive on-demand drug release nanotherapy based on amine modified graphene oxide based on dual or multiple drug transportation with 5G remote kill vector that activates the graphene oxide. The questions that I'll be covering in this section is under 4.3, International Criminal Law, Bioweapons, COVAX, Chemical Drug Chip, Genocide, Systematic Crime, and War Crime. Question 1, how does the bioweapon COVAX chemical drug chip work? In what way is it a chemical drug chip? What is ionized gating SOMA membrane potentials? How does the membrane tracers of neurochemical drug transmitter chip, the kill switch chain reactors, silicon neuron Neurogrid 100+ work? How does the ionized channel of POP synapse conductance of gating variables work in the IBM Neurogrid? So in this section, there is legal confirmation of bioweapon tool COVAX established as a chemical drug chip and ionized gating SOMA membrane tracers. Third is a neurotransmitter kill switch, chain reactors to commit drug genocide, drug systematic crime, drug war crime under international criminal law. There's legal confirmation of a chemical drug chip, ionized membrane potentials, SOMA membrane tracers. I'll be using the IBM journal conference paper. Firstly, to establish the Neurogrid, there is legal confirmation of the neurochemical drug transmitter chip, the kill switch, ionized channel POP synapse conductance of gating variables, SOMA membrane tracers Neurogrid. Using the IBM journal Neurogrid mixed analog digital multi-chip system. There is legal confirmation of the bioweapon tool COVAX chemical drug chip POP A to Z circuit IBM NeuroNet or NN for short neuromorphic system. There is a legal confirmation of the neurotransmitter kill switch chain reactors Neurogrid 100+. Remotely controlled electro-responsive on-demand drug release is discussed. Nanotherapy based on amine modified graphene oxide based dual or multiple drug transportation with 5G remote kill vector that activates the graphene oxide. I'll also be using the Washington Journal, which is the electromagnetic fields by activation of voltage gates calcium channels to produce adverse effects. I used the Russian American Italian academic journal 5G technology induction of coronavirus COVID in skin cells. And finally, the Korean academic journal on graphene oxide radiofrequency characteristics. In total, there is legal confirmation that bioweapon 2 COVAX neurotransmitter silicon neuron, Neurogrid kill switch chain reaction, extermination, chemical drug chip establishment, against POP100+ ionized gating SOMA membrane traces potentials, meta-core circuitry, neural network or NN for short, and neuromorphic system. So first, there is a legal confirmation of bioweapon tool COVAX chemical drug chip SOMA membrane traces neurotransmitter kill switch chain reactors chemical drug chip genocide drug systematic crime and drug war crime under international criminal law. There is legal confirmation of chemical drug chip ionized membrane potentials and SOMA membrane tracers. I'll be using the IBM journal and conference paper on the explanation on the Neurogrid. Ionized channel pop synapse conductance of gating variables, SOMA membrane tracers, confirmation of the neurochemical drug transmitter chip, the kill switch, using the IBM journal Neurogrid mixed analog digital multi-chip system. This is legal confirmation of the chemical drug chip for the criminal purpose of ionized membrane potentials or SOMA membrane tracers, which entails first, the ionized channels of POP100+ COVAX synapse conductance of gating variables. Second, SOMA membrane tracers thus legal confirmation of a Neurogrid chemical drug COVAX as transmitter chip in conjunction with the kill switch concept. This is ultimate legal confirmation of bioweapon COVAX as chemical drug microchip circuitry of POP A to Z or 100+ as part of the sample legal exhibit of a product brand IBM Neural Network NN and neuromorphic system. In the IBM journal Neurogrid mixed analog digital multi-chip system for large-scale neural stimulations. Here is the figure 4 Neurogrid software hardware NG Python IBM with Neuron, SOMA plus dendrite plus 4 gating variables plus 4 synapse up to POP100+ circuit. You can see over here that there's this gray NG Python network manager, filter manager, there's network mapping, experimental control, platform control, data flow, configuration, calibration, stimulation, data flow, neural core, configuration, Neurogrid control, and coder, decoder, USB communication. There's driver, there is software, hardware, there's USB, there is a daughter board, there's a router, RAM, there's a receiver transmitter TX-RX. There is a synapse population. Here is legal evidence from 0 to 1, 2, 3 showing and gating variables showing 0, 1, 2, 3, but in fact it is 100+. Dendrites and SOMA. Neurogrid chip pop 100+. Figure 4 above is a legal exhibit showing Neurogrid's software, hardware, user meaning the perpetrator as the user, interface or short form UI, NG Python programming environment that shows the user perpetrator to specify neuronal models. The gray interface control simulations and visualize results in real time. The neural core configuration programs bias, currents, and router configurations. The platform control converts the perpetrator's users' neural models parameters illegally sensed under GDPR law to bias the currents for Neurogrid's electronic circuits. Network mapping converts the model's connectivity to router configurations. The data flow creates Neurogrid packets. 1. Encoder converts the Neurogrid packets to USB format. 2. Decoder converts the USB data to Neurogrid packets. 3. Translates the data from model to hardware space. A. The CPLD converts the USB data to Neurogrid packets and intersperse timestamps. B. The daughter board realizes the primary axonal branching. Here is a legal exhibit of Dr. Dixon's medical proof. Our silicon neuron of transistor switch is the perfect match with this IBM pattern. Figure 5 shows a layout of the neural core. Microscopic silicon neuron with 337 transistors. If I enlarge this, you'll see that it is a perfect match with the Pfizer droplets. The IBM silicon neuron with the Pfizer droplets submitted by the Australian batch. And it explains in the layout of the neural core by the IBM that it is a silicon neuron with 337 transistors. And this is not exclusive to the brand IBM. It is also stated in the National Institute of Health and also the IEEE or the FCC. The neural core router communications packets with parent through TI and TO and two sons, LILO, RIRO. The RAM1 supports reconfigurable connectivity and RAM2 supports programmable biases. The transceiver RX delivers spikes to silicon neuron array and transmitter TX dispatches spikes from the array. The legal meaning of WEF cloud swap reset explained. The AIQ without the blueprint. Reset code pace global. The experimental control starts, stops, and resets the simulation and stimulation. The driver Neurogrid control handles global resets, which is the more accurate legal meaning of the term reset. The IBM IEEE shared a course with the FCC evidence with Dr. Kempra, graphene oxide, and Dr. Nixon's medical evidence. Contrasting the IBM IEEE FCC or, quote, the Commission, and National Institute of Health evidence sample of 12 by 14 mm square containing 25 million transistors and 180 pads fabricated in a 180 nanometer complementary metal oxide semiconductor or CMOS for short process with two Spanish batch, the Spanish University Dr. Campra's final lab report of graphene oxide neuralase injected. And 3, the Australian batch Dr. Nixon's medical evidence of injectables in lipid form, the Australian batch COVAX chip solidified circuitry with Wi-Fi microconstruction robots as neural core injected and presumably powered by neural cells of K-POP100+ Neurogrid. This is a clear 100% match of the IBM IEEE National Institute of Health Neurogrid evidence with Dr. Nixon's medical evidence Australian batch of Pfizer drying out. Observed here is a metallic-like fabric. The final legal answer is transistors. Silicon neuron neural core. Figure 5 is the IBM shared across the National Institute of Health IEEE transistors, silicon neuron neural core gating variables. The IBM component RST-MB provides 5 resets, which is the more accurate legal meaning of the popularized term reset by the WAF cloud swap. Generates the DAC's reference current. To conclude, here is the evidence of criminal intent and criminal act committed of bioweapon to COVAX, chip circuitry of Neuron, Soma, Dendrite, 4 gating variables, and 4 synapse POP100+, as can be seen over here. The gating variables 0, 1, 2, 3 up to 100. 100+. Next, I examine the E-shock architecture concerning the neuron, the Soma, Dendrite, and synapse. The neuron Soma plus Dendrite plus synapse plus the E-shock architecture by the WRC. So you can see over here, this is the analog E-shock, and this is the digital E-shock. Continuing from the previous discussion on neuron core, silicon neuron of transistors E-shock criminal methodology. Figure 2 shows analog and digital silicon neurons. A. Analog shock. Incoming spikes on the vertical wire axon. Also very similar name with a particular oil company. So incoming spikes with vertical wire axon meter charge synapse, which can be extended to other electronic devices, including even fridge food spilling, and the food itself could also be exposed to Wi-Fi and leading to the meat possible chip onto horizontal wire dendrite. So you can see over here that this is the horizontal wire dendrite, and there is the synapse on the vertical axis, as well as the axon meter charge vertical wire. And the capacitance integrates the charge. The comparator, which is SOMA over here, which you can see, computes the resulting voltage with threshold. So here's the threshold. If the threshold is exceeded, this triggers an outgoing spike, as you can see here, and this is represented by the upward spike. The capacitor is then discharged and reset. So we can see over here, and this is the correct legal meaning of the WEF car swap, popularized term reset. Dendrite incremented. Figure 2b is digital shock. Counter is incremented dendrite each time one is read out of a bit cell synapse triggered by incoming spike axon. So there is incoming spike axon over here. You can see there's a synapse ran and then a dendrite. Soma reset and spike. Comparator. So figure 2b is a digital shock and counter is incremented dendrite each time one is read out of a bit cell. Synapse triggered by incoming spike axon. The counter is compared soma with digitally stored threshold. A spike is triggered if supra-threshold. The counter is then reset, which gives the correct legal comprehensive meaning of the popularized term reset by cos of the WEF. Figure 3 is a one-on-one chip and neural network, a set of wires shared by all neuronal pop axons. You can see the neuron synapse shared dendrite. And figure 16 is a transmitter TX and receiver RX architecture. A neurotransmitter is attached to a receptor in a neural cell. The neurotransmitter is combined with chemicals, potassium and sodium, for the ions to pass through. Figure 16 shows a neurotransmitter interface that relay requests from spiking neurons S. So this is a spiking neuron S to a row arbiter J and dispatches the selected row spikes S in parallel and encodes the address Y to selected columns address X. So this is J and this is X. Figure 16 shows a receiver RX, a sequencer SEQ that directs two different ledgers, then direct ledgers A to load incoming row Y and column X addresses and tilward T generated by TB to the output port. The X and Y will also be re-explained again in other diagrammatical formats. Select lines are activated simultaneously when the tilward T is received delivering spikes to the row in parallel S. Under international criminal law, biochemical drug weapon COVAX chip, perpetrators' illegal experimentation, which is genocidal, under international criminal law, discovered that the chemical's capability, sodium, salt, and potassium K, to adjust the reset pulse is the full comprehensive meaning of the WEF car swaps, popularized term reset with big or little elaboration in its WEF brochure. Here is the final evidence of illegal experimentation under international criminal law. The dendrites receive back propagating spikes, IBP, in figure 6, which you can see here, which is the IBP back propagating spikes, and drive soma. Soma generates spikes using regenerative sodium current. I and capital letter Na stands for sodium, which triggers a reset pulse. Pulse for P and reset for RES. 2. A potassium conductance GK activated at reset delays the generation of the next spike. So here's the illustrative diagram of figure 6, IBP back propagating. Back for B and propagating for P spikes. And you can see now you can fully understand this diagram that K stands for sodium and this is pulse reset and Na is short form for sodium. And this is a diagram that I paste to show that the systematical diagram and this criminal methodology is modeled after the human cell system. So there's a dendrite, soma, axonal terminal, and this is the axon. This is the soma, this is the dendrite, and this is the terminal here, axon terminal. The criminal purpose of shoot enlargement of the hexagon center. Here's the final evidence of the perpetrator's act of enlargement of hexagon center for the criminal purpose of shooting aim. That is the spike firing of graphene oxide, infused synapse of POP A to Z, conductance traces of POP4+, which is shown in the previous gray diagram, but in actual reality is that it's POP100+ stack. And figure 6 is channel POP 0 and 1 that provide a pair of conductances dynamically activated or inactivated. In C0 to 3 by dendritic potential, the maximum conductance is determined by the synapse of population COVAX chip, for example. Figure 6 is a Neurogrid, Neuron, electronic circuit, soma and shared dendrite circuits, and 4 gating variable, plus 4 synapse population up to 100+. Model is synapse port 0, 1, 2, 3, up to 100+, that generates a time-varying conductance G sin 0 to 3 or 100+, in response to an input spike or neighboring neuron soma or dendrite driven through a shared dendrite tree. Figure 6 is ionized channel population, conductance of GCH obtained by scaling maximum conductance Gmax with gating variable C. Calculation formula of GCH ionized channel pop conductance equals to C gating variable multiplied by G, which is the maximum conductance. Figure 9 is the POP synapse circuit conductance traces. As you can see, as I enlarge, it is a 6-point, and the center is for the criminal purpose of shooting. Figure 9 shows synapse POP circuit conductance tracing in definite connection resonating with the physical object contact tracer, which is a dispatch physical token as a symbolic gesture during bioweapon 1 COVID and bioweapon 2 COVAX. By adopting certain experimental procedures, the perpetrators discovered the following IBM criminal lab results. Figure 9a shows that when you increase the T rise, it could be also the plausible letter behind T-Mobile USA IT System European Gateway, prolongs the rising phase. Figure 9b, increasing the G set potassium conductance, GK. So by increasing GK, the potassium, the IBM criminal lab results realize that it increases the synaptic conductance, for example, electricity and frequency waves, which is highly plausible and proportionately. So you can see that it increases steadily upwards. And also for 9 part A, increasing the T rise, it prolongs the rising phase for killing. And 9D shows E sync. Increasing the E-sync capability to effect changes on the membrane potential from inhibitory, which is red in color, to excitatory in black in color. Let me just backtrack. Figure 9C is increasing the tau sync, which slows the integration, leading to smaller peak conductance and longer delay times. So it's over here. 9C. 9D increasing a E-sync capability effect changes on the membrane potential. So here is the diagram criminal lab results for membrane potentials. From inhibitory, which is red color, to excitatory, which is black in color. So it increases from red to black, from inhibitory to excitatory. And 9E is this hexagon diagram here. Increasing the silicon dendritic tree decay factor from left to right and top to bottom increases the spread of synaptic conductance evoked at 6 locations, which is the 6-point arranged in a hexagon by a spike delivered to the center. And I also have this symbol printed on me since the day I was born, which is 6-point. Thus accomplishing the perpetrator's accuracy in a spike shot by enlargement of center as a plausible explanation. So this is my view of the purpose of enlarging the 6-point, because by enlarging it, you have a more accurate kill-shot aim capability. Computation logic of integration, membrane potential reset, increments in potassium, which is K, in neural metacore network, neural network, neuromorphic system, copy patterns. So shared across patterns. So figure 7 shows a SOMA circuit membrane trace. The perpetrators also discovered in figure 7 that pertaining to SOMA circuit membrane traces, that the IBM criminal lab results shows the following. Figure 7a, by increasing the tau s, increases the interspike interval by slowing integration. In the graph plot 7b, increasing the T-res, such as it could be the naming behind of the letter T, mobile, USA, IT system, European gateway, it increases the interspike interval by resetting the membrane longer. Figure 7c, increasing the potassium conductance, which is K, which you can see over here. Increases the interspike interval by producing larger increments in the potassium conductance. Next, we look at another set of lab results. Number 4, the IBM ionized channel pop circuitry. Figure 10, gating variable curves, ionized channel membrane potentials. Figure 10 is a gating variable curves from ionized channel population circuit. So these are the circuits in brain or in body. And this is the lab results by the IBM ionized channel pop circuitry, with gating variable curves changes in experimentation. And also it refers to ionized channel membrane potential. Figure 10 is a gating variable curves from the ionized channel population circuit shows from the IBM criminal lab results that in figure 10a, a steady state value increases for activation with increasing membrane potential, exhibiting sigmoidal dependence, increasing the S, increases the slope. As you can see over here. Figure 10b is a time constant, has a bell curve dependence on membrane potential. Tau max scales the peak. And in figure 10.c, threshold increases with increasing width. Diagram explaining criminal method ionized channel made simple, the neurotransmitter IBM ionized channel pop circuitry. Here's a diagram to show that the neurotransmitter backs chip solidified. It attaches to a receptor with ligand, which is required to open the channel. So the chemical acts as a stimulus, for example, potassium, which is Na+, and calcium. Sodium is Na+, potassium K, calcium Ca opens the channel. So you can see that at first it was closed, but you require certain chemicals such as sodium, calcium, and potassium K to open these opening to cause the ionized membrane potentials, which is also can be explained subsequently in a 3D architectural blueprint, such as ionized capital malls that you have to return a key and put the PSLT drawer, land depth ATM manual worldwide with passport. Land depth not paid. And large scale land robbery or blind land, which is not the SG pace allowed anymore. So the neurotransmitter kill switch chain reactors Neurogrid-100+ is a remotely controlled electro-responsive on-demand drug, and you have to return address 1 to the lion inhabitants, and also for diffusion. On-demand drug release nanotherapy based on amine modified graphene oxide based on dual multiple drug transportation with 5G remote kill vector or that activates the graphene oxide JUL. Building on the prior legal confirmation of a chemical drug chip for the criminal purpose of ionized membrane potentials or soma membrane tracers, which entails 1. Ionized channels of PPT4.3Chem convex synapse conductance of gating variables. 2. Soma membrane tracers, thus legal confirmation of the kill switch concept explained in the following journals such as the Washington, D.C. Academic Journal and the On-Demand Release Drug and the Russian, American, Italian Journal and Korean Journal. The kill switch concept is legal confirmation of bioweapon to chemical drug covax chip as Neurogrid transmitter chip kill switching reactors. This is ultimate legal confirmation of bioweapon covax as chemical drug microchip circuitry of POP100+ in conjunction with the kill switch with chain reaction from neurotransmitters as part of the IBM neural network 5 or 6G, even reaching 7. Neuromorphic system. Here is a explanation on a remotely controlled electro-responsive on-demand drug release nanotherapy based on amine-modified graphene oxide-based dual multiple drug teleportation or transportation with 5G remote kill vector that activates the graphene oxide in the following diagram that shows electro-sensitive material for drugs released with external voltage remotely controlled. So this is a diagram of an electro-sensitive material that for drugs released with external voltage remotely controlled, for example, a cell phone wireless control. The NGO is utilized in a controllable manner as an electro-sensitive material for delivery and release of drugs with external voltage remotely controlled, such as a lab-made remote control device with the release process switched on or off via a mobile phone or a central controller by changing the bias voltage. The modified NGO attaches 2 drugs in a single delivery platform to exploit the synergistic effect of ASP hydrophilic and DOX hydrophobic as model drugs delivered simultaneously by external voltage. Judgment of this electro-responsive graphene oxide drug delivery of cell towers voltage control. The publication entitled Remotely Controlled Electro-Responsive On-Demand Nanotherapy based on amine-modified graphene oxide or JUL for synergistic dual drug delivery confirms that cell towers voltage control kill switch causes voltage control electro-responsive on-demand graphene oxide JUL release of weapons payloads. It highlights graphene oxide properties introduced through injections such as covax chip. To be accurate. So first is activated by electrical stimulation remotely or mobile control. It causes the voltage control electro-responsive on-demand nano-dual multiple drug-triggered release from graphene oxide in context in large amounts of the surface area in P-conjugated structure in van der Waals interactions of JUL graphene oxide. See IBM neuromorphic circuit and metal core. Or activated by exogenous factors, for example, magnetic field, ultraviolet UV light, electrical stimulation, triggers a drug release for graphene oxide by weapon 2 covax due to its specific properties. A. Hybridized. B. Monoatomic. C. Carbon allotropes with 1 epoxy, 2 hydroxyl, 3 carboxyl, functional groups on its basal plane and edges, highlighting the importance special properties of graphene oxide that enables it to be 1. Well dispersed in an aqueous solution, for example, bioweapon 2 covax liquid form solidified. Also quoting relevance from Bill Gates' operating software system, Wi-Fi microconstruction for configured application software remotely controlled. 2. Enhanced interfacial bonding within the components. 3. Transfer stress efficiently. Combining 1, 2, and 3 facilitates efficient delivery of drug payloads or bioweapon in a controlled and precise way inside the body of A to Z POP. Targeted body locations, thus rendering graphene oxide JUL high potential nanocomposite material as a drug carrier in the field of bioweapons, combined with polymer or inorganic matrix into known organ locations such as the colorectal region, esophageal region, gastric region, liver region, pancreatal region, and breast cells, which also I mentioned with the illustrative diagram of ancient and combined with the 3D architecture of pentagon, thus binary and radio frequency binary code, thus classifying the bioweapon tool complex under international criminal law and other laws. Next is the neurotransmitter kill switch chain reactors Neurogrid-100+. Using the Washington Journal electromagnetic fields as routers activation of voltage gates calcium channels to produce adverse effects. Professor Emeritus at the Washington State University published a paper called The Electromagnetic Fields via Activation of Voltage-Gated Calcium Channels to Produce Adverse Effects. Confirms that Wi-Fi routers activation of voltage-gated calcium channels gates diffusion of ionized outer membrane of neural cells and neurons. His research conclusively demonstrated that radio frequency RF and microwave radiation such as cell phones, Wi-Fi wireless routers activates the voltage-gated calcium channels or VGCC. That is, the ionized channels gates diffusion of ions through the outer membrane of neural cells or neurons. The lab evidence conclude that low frequency or LF, 1. Microwave radiation from mobile devices and wireless Wi-Fi routers. 2. Causes voltage changes in the body cells. By opening the VGCC, which is the simplified diagram that I showed earlier on, A. Allowing an abnormal influx of calcium ions into the cells, which B. Activates the nitrite oxide and superoxide, and C. That react nearly instantaneously, resulting in the formation of peroxynitrite molecules that causes reactive nitrogen species, that is the carbonate free radicals. The emeritus professor at Washington State University calculation showed that the VGCCs are 7.2 million times more susceptible to microwave radiation than charged particles internal and external to the neutral body cells, thus concluding that safety standards have obviously been exceeded due to exposure by a factor of 7.2 million. Here is the Professor Washington State U Journal Emeritus table of the adverse cells changes ionized gates. And also this table showing the different calcium. Next, we look at the neurotransmitter kill switch chain reactors Neurogrid-100+ using the Russian, American, Italian journal 5G Technology and Induction of Coronavirus COVID in Skin Cells. The three authors, first, G. Marconi University in Rome, Italy, Department of Nuclear, Subnuclear, and Radiation Physics staff. Second is the Central Michigan, USA. Third is the Sechenov, First Moscow State Medical University, Russian Department of Dermatology. They published a journal paper called the 5G Technology and Induction of Coronavirus in Skin Cells in the Journal of Biological Regulators and Homeostatic Agents. Prove and establish that first, 5G millimeter waves can be absorbed by dermatologic cells. 2. DNA with inductor-like linear toroid round inductor structure can be charged. Third, they established that the DNA acts as a transmitter TX, antennas transfer of 5G millimeter waves to other cells. For example, the DNA within the dermatologic cell keratinocyte receives external waves and sends them to DNAs of other cells, for example, melanocytes. Thus, the criminal functional role in manufacturing bioweapon 1 COVID. The EM waves or self-membrane and nuclear membrane. DNA is an electronic device within a cell that exchange and interact with EM waves with a medium, especially when an electromagnetic wave passes the cell membrane. And 2, the nuclear membrane. This induces extra magnetic field within the DNA inductor and interacts with its field that causes extra motions or extra waves within the cells of the DNA. Through the motion of DNA, its charges move and emit electromagnetic waves. Wavelength of an emitted waves from DNA is equal or less than its size within a cell. Also, 5G technology waves passes the cell membrane in Figure 2 and contributes to gene expression. That is, it turns on some genes and turns off other genes. The electronic device produces hexagonal, pentagonal holes, base structures, and formation of shapes. The waves produce hexagonal and pentagonal holes within the liquid of a nucleus and a cell. To fill the holes, the hexagonal and pentagonal molecules are built. The hexagonal and pentagonal bases join each other to form structures such as RNAs of the bioweapon 1 COVID. Shapes of radiated waves by a DNA have direct relations with shapes of its genetic source. So, for example, a DNA formed from hexagonal and pentagonal manifolds thus emit waves of hexagonal and pentagonal shapes. This shape-related information seems to corroborate with the IBM pattern Neurogrid explanation of increasing silicon dendritic tree decay factor to increase the spread of synapse conductance of population 0 to 100+ circuits, to achieve the perpetrator's greater accuracy in a spike shot by enlargement of the shaped hexagonal center. Bioweapon 1 COVID calculations external electromagnetic wavelengths greater than or less than the cell size. To produce the bioweapon 1 COVID, wavelengths of external electromagnetic fields must be equal or less than the cell size. The findings conclude that 5G waves is instrumental in manufacturing bioweapon 1 COVID. Next is the neurotransmitter kill switch chain reactors Neurogrid-100+, looking at the Korean journal Graphene Oxide Radiofrequency Characteristics. In the document Experimental Tests entitled Radiofrequency Characteristics of Graphene Oxide, radiofrequency RF transmission properties were extracted as S parameters to determine intrinsic transmission of graphene sheets in Figure 2. S parameter plots such as impedance, second resistance of graphene sheets decrease drastically as 3 frequency increases, thus conclusively confirms graphene oxide JUL's high potential for signal transmission at gigahertz range, including kill switch signal, rebroadcast chain reaction that is person-to-person nanocarbon electronics as GO graphene oxide carrying payloads. This is the Korean journal's plotting of graphs, graphene oxide. Graphene oxide materials carry chemical or biological payloads introduced through injection, such as bioweapon 2 COVAX, or ingested. Third, release of payloads controlled by external cell tower signals cause specific changes in human cells that is delivered through the cell phone signaling or signals transmission. This is the experimental data of the Korean journal. Theoretically, the kill switch payloads such as nerve agent or infectious bacteria, parasitic agents, see the IBM drug tailor smart pill video evidence and other POP-type model signals can be rebroadcast far beyond the initial range of 5G cell towers in a chain reaction formation, functioning as biochemical weapons payload release infrastructure killing system to commit systematic widespread extermination of POP A to Z inoculated with payloads carrying graphene oxide GO unactivated. Therefore, combined with the witness of A to Z 100+, also this mention of certain names to return your premise keys, and also for the infra STAP files and the STAP itself, and only consideration is for diffusion, authentic land claim, and to and the SRE tab is not deducted for land depth, is to do the money and ATM for Asia and also other states, perhaps in USA, ATM and cash. Inability to stop transmissions by weapon 2 COVAX or lab-made infections by weapon 1 COVID. In fact, as subpop further details in the judgment document, the inoculation of graphene oxide payloads unactivated clearly shows that bioweapon 2 COVAX has completely nothing to do with stopping any pseudo-pandemic bioweapon 1 COVID. Both are bioweapons. Under international criminal law, the completion of the genocide silicon neuron of metal transmitters programmable by Wi-Fi drug chip systematic crime war crime is accomplished. By simply pressing the kill switch payloads, activating the graphene oxide payload released with specific broadcast energy intensity and frequency. The legal conclusion for bioweapon 1 and 2, COVID and COVAX, neurotransmitter, silicon, neuron, Neurogrid, kill switch, chain reaction, ionized gating soma membrane tracers, potentials network, or neural network N for short. The above 4 documented lab reports conclusively demonstrated that 5G signals is used to generate low voltage, causing graphene oxide GO molecules to release predetermined payloads inside poly cells, and upon application of external stimulus, migrate of materials to release drugs, for example, electro-stimulated drug delivery. Under international criminal law, chip genocide, chip systematic crime and chip war crime, and medicrime law, pharmaceutical law, counterfeit medicrime products, lethal chemical weapons such as nerve agents are fatal and deadly. At nanograms, which could be loaded into the graphene oxide GO molecules through the bioweapon 2 COVAX. The crime committed and completed with 5G signal broadcasts of EM waves to manufacture bioweapon 1 COVID. Across inoculated injected bioweapon 2 COVAX A to Z POP100+ Neurogrid, using the release-adjusted kernel frequency, that is, to generate the required voltage, 2, to cause the graphene oxide molecules to unleash or release the payload, weapons payload. Again, it can also be delivered via the food vector. See the T-Mobile fridge discussion by WRC, hypothetically, and plausible theoretically. Thus, the scenario A is that suppose the weapons payload is a nerve agent, and the A to Z outcome is a sudden dropping dead of large sections of the population, especially cities where the 5G broadcasts. See the judgment of drop dead, unconscious ambulance at community center, CCs, killers, grassroots rapes, CCTV on is able to saturate them. And scenario B is suppose the payload is a virus nanoparticle. Large sections of the population would apparently look like an infected group with pandemic virus spreading at escalating speed. Thus demonstrating that the neurotransmitter silicon neuron neurogrid kill switch chain reaction capability to commit chip genocide, chip systematic crime, and chip war crime to terminate sections of the population inoculated with weapons payload carrying graphene oxide. For example, bioweapon 2 COVAX, chemical drug chip, PPT4.3Chem ion-gating variable soma membrane, potentials, metacore circuitry, neuro 5G network, NN, and neuromorphic system. With this, I end. Thank you.